You're listening to the Medic Materials Podcast, hosted by Mike Turek, Emily Yates, Kelsey Coons, and Gerard Cuomo. All are current EMS providers and educators with a combined 30 years experience. Each month, we discuss EMS news, medical science, and review actual EMS calls, bringing many educational opportunities to the listener. Portions of the calls have been altered to protect the privacy and identity of all involved.
Hello and welcome everyone back to the Medic Materials Podcast. My name is Mike. I am sitting all by myself with Emily.
It's not really all by yourself.
Well,
then.
it's sort of all like the.
Hey, this is something. This is a moment.
This is a moment.
Sitting there with, yeah, you're. Did you completely forget that you're sitting there with Emily and Kelly?
Oh,
how could you forget her?
She's right there.
Hold on. Isn't that her new sound effect? Is the crickets?
It sounds like a squeaky seesaw.
You know, that's exactly what I said when Gerard was like, "You should have crickets." I was like, "This damn thing sounds like a squeaky wheel."
Don't talk about her like that.
So the squeaky gets the oil, right? She knows that.
She does. So one of the really cool things is we are sitting here with everybody. Just everybody is somewhat at a different spot in the world. Gerard, you're here from a undisclosed bunker somewhere in the People's Republic of New York.
Yes.
And Kelsey, where are you? Like Gilboa?
Like
Yes.
Gilboa.
Just listen to her audio. It's
The middle of nowhere.
It's definitely Gilboa.
It's definitely Gilboa.
Yeah, she's up on top of a telephone pole, tapped in, hardlined.
Yeah, I've got like the wire antenna sticking up off my head right now.
There you go.
Trying to get just enough connection.
There you go. But one of the really cool things is in the last episode, the October 23rd Patreon episode, we actually debuted a brand new sound system that the table invested in, and now this is the first time that the free, everyone, users, listeners, whatever you want to call yourselves, can actually listen to it. So we have a really cool soundboard that is able to bring in, Kelsey through a phone call and Gerard through a Skype call, and then have me and Emily sitting here able to hear them, talk to them, and everybody's recorded. So their audio, sounds fairly good, other than,
Kelsey and Gilboa.
And poor Kelly, she's got a microphone, but I don't know how much talking she's gonna do. We'll see what she's thinking.
I'm gonna bet she's probably gonna talk twice as much as she normally does.
Yeah, well, she might. There's a lot of table for her to compensate for.
She likes a big room.
But one of the really awesome things was this was a long time coming for the show, this sound upgrade, and we're all excited, and it was really brought on by listener feedback. Like there's every time that listeners email the show, I get it, and I share it with you guys. Like we take all of that constructive criticism to heart, and this was really one of those things where they were like, hey, we really love what you're saying, we really love what you're doing, but we want a little bit higher quality.
But you sound like shit.
Right.
We appreciate that, guys.
Right. And that was it, and we couldn't hide from it any longer. So we upgraded, and now I think we sound hands over fist better.
Yeah.
So we're going to do a really interesting call review today.
Ding.
I don't want to ding myself.
Kelsey's not here. You have to.
But yeah, so we're going to do a really interesting call review. So Kelsey, if you can tap into some satellite dish near you, can you give us the rig check for the week?
Yeah, it's one of the old.
I will try my best. Okay, guys, so we have officially reached 925 subscribers on our YouTube page. So thank you to everybody who has subscribed. Our next goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers. That is a huge deal in my book. And there's like a lot of people that apparently like us.
That is a massive number.
Yeah.
Massive number. We also want to thank everybody who purchased Medic Materials Breast Cancer merchandise this week. We will be announcing soon how much money we raised and we're able to send to the foundation. And as we announced to our Patreon listeners in last month's October 23rd Patreon-only podcast, Medic Materials is doing a sponsorship with Leatherman. So plenty of EMS providers that everybody knows carry the Leatherman Raptors as a part of like their everyday essentials. So now you can buy the Raptors and the Raptor Minis, which I'm super excited about because I love things that are tiny. It works better for tiny people like me. And a portion of the sale will go to the medic materials for no extra charge to you. And we are also shouting out our listeners in Alabama and the Philippines today. So thank you everybody who has supported us this far along in our journey. And can't wait to see where you take us.
Woo.
Roll Tide.
And you know, the really cool thing also about the link is, you know, there's other links that I'm working on with Leatherman so that you know, eventually we'll be able to put out another link that has the availability to purchase, you know, multi-tools and other Leatherman products, you know, as well as just the Raptors. So you can find that in that link in every description box of anything that we do. So podcasts, show notes, YouTube, you know, videos, it's all there. So you can easily find it. So guys, are you ready for this ridiculous call?
Oh God, I don't know.
Oh boy. All right,
I'm gonna.
Is there an emulsion blender?
No.
Oh God.
No, there's not. But
Is there a wet bandage?
no. So we're going down our checklist. There's no wet bandage. They did get a blood glucose. There's no UTI.
Okay, thank you.
I'm ready. I think we're ready for this.
All right.
There's no emulsion blender. And if you're wondering what the fuck we're talking about with the emulsion blender, it's not an inside joke. It's just a Patreon only joke. So if you're not a Patreon, go there. You can listen to the last Patreon episode and find out exactly why we're talking about an emulsion blender. So
Or don't. And live a long, happy, ignorant life.
Or shave yourself and don't.
yeah, thanks, Gerard.
You know? There's two pills. One is red, one is blue. I would suggest the blue one for this squall.
Thanks. So hey, it was a good call
Gerard,
that
you
we
realize
reviewed.
most of our listeners are EMS providers, and they're going to want to take that red pill.
That's so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Unless you've been doing this long enough, then that blue pill looks really good.
Well,
You know?
I don't know.
I like steak. What can I say?
All right, guys. So this call.
A side note, I totally would have sold them all out on freaking The Matrix, dude. I would have totally been Cypher. Yep.
I could see that.
Give me the blue pill. I'm eating the steak. They're right over there.
Yep.
Yep.
I could totally see that.
Fuck them all.
I don't honestly remember. Was there steak in there?
Well, that was his thing. Was he likes to taste the steak. He doesn't care whether or not it's real or not. So
Yeah.
here's the blue pill and fuck all your buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know. Oh
You know?
well. All right. So this call takes place in a smaller urban location that is covered by a private ambulance service and a paid fire department. The paid fire department staffs a transporting ambulance with 2 EMT basics, and the private ambulance is staffed with 1 EMT and 1 paramedic. Your local hospitals in the area, there's 3 within a good driving distance. One is a small community hospital that's going to be 7 minutes away from the scene. The second is a level 2 trauma center and is roughly 15 minutes away from the scene. And the third is a cardiac specialty hospital around 25 minutes from the scene. So remember, level 2 trauma centers, for those that don't know, is their capability is, all trauma. However, they have to call in resources. They're not actually staffed there 24/7. Most of the time, their doctors and nurses on the trauma team have to be within like a 30-minute drive or something like that. But so you guys are dispatched, priority 1 or a Delta priority, to a private residence for a 5-year-old female. That is 5-year-old female with complaints of respiratory distress and lethargy.
God, I just said I hate kids.
I'm sorry. That was off recording. Now you've admitted to everyone that you
She
hate
doesn't
kids.
hate kids. She hates kid calls.
So that's actually, hold on. This is actually a perfect segue. I couldn't even plan this better.
You're welcome.
My next sentence is most providers hate pediatric calls.
Yep.
And why do you guys believe that is? Like, what is the scary part about peds?
They don't communicate.
But do they?
Not well.
But do they?
Not how I like it.
Okay, not how you like it. But they do communicate, just in their own form or fashion. Right? I mean,
It's like charades the entire call.
That's true. I mean, you do have to figure out, what an owie and a boo-boo and, like all of their different phrases and stuff mean. But are there other reasons that you might not like peds calls? I mean, just in general, like
They're very okay until they're not.
Right. And that is...
There's no gradual decline.
No.
It's
and that,
good,
drop.
dead.
And that is 100% an accurate statement. Like we always hear that they're on the plateau until they hit the cliff, and then they're off the cliff. There's no, hey, we're going to roll slowly down the hill. Right. And that's actually, the kids really do compensate really well until they don't. It's literally a light switch. So heading into this call, I want to hear your guys' kind of thoughts. What are you guys thinking heading into a respiratory call that, possibly has some altered mental status with a 5-year-old?
I'm just looking at Gerard.
Emily, Gerard.
Well, no,
Hold on.
Hey, why are you're stepping all over Kelly? Let her finish. So,
Go!
So, yeah, it's kind of hard when we can't actually see each other.
Yeah,
I know.
Emily was looking at you for your answer.
Yeah.
It's my go-to.
No, I mean, what medical history does a kid have? Is this an asthma?
What time of year is it? Are we in
that
creep
kind of
season?
thing. Right. Yeah. Are we?
So I'm gonna barge in there and just say it's fall.
Okay.
So it's perfect cold and flu. Everybody gets sick season.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just
pretty much.
basically, I'm thinking about, what chronic conditions would cause a child to be this way. And then, of course, I mean, there's no report of choking or anything like that, but maybe keep that in mind, too. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
a great point.
one of those things with peds at any age is always think airway obstruction, no matter what. And always think if it's not natural, then it's foreign. Like kids, they swallow anything.
Oh, yeah.
Literally anything.
I went to a 7-year-old seizing off of one of the major highways, and we get there, and oh yeah, the kid was seizing, but he was seizing because he was choking on gum. So yeah.
Yep. And literally, my 7-year-old asked me if he could have gum for the first time last night, and I was like, "No, your airway is like this."
It's still a funnel.
So
wow, way to suck all the fun out of childhood.
Fun sucker.
Right? Yeah. Well, I don't want my kid dead. So
Sorry, son,
I
your
think
airway
especially
is
for
too
5-year-old
small.
age.
hold on, I didn't hear
I
that,
think
Kelsey.
especially like the 5-year-old age of fall, one of the major first questions you should ask is like, what's the year at school? Because at 5 you're probably only the first or second year in school, and especially when like right now where your immune system's pretty much been on pause with like the whole mask thing. Asking like, has there been a case of strep or something going around at school? Because that spreads so quick with kids.
Yeah, and that is a legit point in that you do have to kind of look at how, have they been in contact with anybody? Have they, has the school been sick? Has the class been sick? Has their brother or sister been sick? Like, is this going around? Because one kid gets it, the whole class gets it.
Yeah.
And that's just a fact. And then the parents get it. I love my kids coming back from school, getting the brother sick, and then getting us sick, because that's just one less sick that I have to deal with.
Have kids, they said.
It's great, they said. So, all right. So both ambulances arrive at the same time, as they're both based out of the same station. The fire department EMTs jump out of their truck, grab their first in bag, and go right into the house. The crew of the private ambulance at that point in time is still gathering their ALS gear from their truck. The fire department EMTs are met at the front door by a frantic mother. She leads them through the home into a playroom, where they find the pediatric female sitting half slumped over on a couch in the room. She does not realize that they've entered the room, and the mother is repeatedly asking the EMTs, like, fix my kid, what the fuck is wrong with her, blah, blah, blah. The lead fire department EMT steps into the room and begins their evaluation, while the secondary fire department EMT begins to persuade mom, like, hey, come step into this side room, like, I'll talk to you over there. This is about the same time that the private ambulance crew also finds their way through the home. The paramedic enters the playroom and immediately attacks the lead fire EMT, literally just starting screaming at them like, why the fuck did you come in here without me? Literally, this is like, they were in there for a minute and a half.
Yeah.
Right? But immediately starts scolding them for coming into the house without the paramedic.
Okay, it's already done. Move on.
Right.
Wow.
The medic then tells them to move and just go get demos. You're not needed here.
Oh, fuck
Wow.
off.
Douche.
Right?
That's a douchey move.
Fuck off.
So,
Well, guess who ain't gonna be here to help out in about 2 minutes?
Yeah, when that 5-year-old
Yeah, that's what I was
crumps.
thinking. Is it? You want me to move? Okay, guess that's it. I'm done.
okay. I like where your guys' thought processes are going already. So the fire EMT begrudgingly steps aside as they did not want to make this whole scene worse. So really with this limited, story so far, we're off to a fabulous start, in my opinion. If you guys were this, fire department EMT, how are you going to handle like this situation? A bossy, a douchey, angry paramedic.
I've been there. You just walk away and let them drown themselves.
You say that, but there is a 5-year-old that did not realize that there is strange people in their house. That is not good. I do not like this patient presentation at all, and quite frankly, I don't give a fuck what you just told me to do. I will take a step back, and that's as far away as you get me. Like, I am still here. We have a patient to care for. This is going to be a team effort, whether this medic likes it or not. I will deal with him after.
Mm-hmm.
This
Why
is
it
not
gotta
the
be
time.
him?
Her. Fine. I'll deal with them after. But all of us said it. Oh, what a douche. Fuck off. Like, that's absolutely going through my mind, but I'm not going far away because this kid does not look good.
Right. And clearly, from the rip, the paramedic does not seem to care.
No, because he hasn't even looked.
That-
She hasn't even looked.
Whoever.
Right.
Honestly, hasn't really even taken notice that kid is sick in front.
Right. Yeah.
They're more occupied with, hey, let's, cause trouble and, confusion in the scene. Like that doesn't make any sense to me, Gerard, did you have any thoughts?
I was just thinking, I might just take a step back and maybe call up my captain and say, you want to come down here to the scene? Because we might have an issue.
Okay. I mean,
not a bad idea.
100%.
Yeah.
I think that is an appropriate move, right?
Then it's out of my hands. Then if homie wants to keep going down that path, they can do it. The captain can take care of it.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a bold move, Cotton. I like it. So
see if it pays off.
So the paramedic actually steps in, begins their initial physical exam. They find that she is responsive to verbal stimuli only. Airway is clear of fluid or debris. Ventilations appear to be shallow and distressed at a visibly estimated rate of around 30. She has a palpable radial pulse, but her capillary refill is around 3 to 4 seconds. There appears to be no trauma or visible abnormalities that the crew can spot without, further investigation. So, had to hit my cough button.
That picked up in my mic.
Damn it. I'll hit both of them next time.
I was going to say, I heard the cough too.
Yeah.
So, overall child presentation, good, bad, ugly?
Ugly.
Ugly.
I don't like it.
So what does this paramedic specifically need to be doing at this point in time? Like, what do they need to focus in on?
Respiratory, breathing right now.
Why did this come over as a respiratory distress? I realized that she's shallow and distressed, but was she breathing fast? Does she have a cough? Are there other respiratory symptoms?
They don't know yet.
Does she feel warm? Like, I would keep assessing.
Okay. So I can only assume that mom in the, conversation with dispatch was not 100% sure. Like, hey, kid looks like trouble breathing. That's what I'm going to call it in as. And she's lethargic. Not like, we all know, being medical providers, that dispatch information is only as good as the person giving it. Right.
100%.
And if mom is already freaking out, like,
but
oh my God.
What did she see That's what I want to know.
We haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
No one's asked.
Hurry up.
So the one of the EMTs from the fire department took her into a
Right,
separate
into another room.
So hopefully, they're doing stuff to be able to actually get this information. So is there anything else that the paramedic needs to be focused in on other than just gathering story? Like, is there treatments or, a specific evaluation that anyone wants to do at this point?
Yeah, do your ABCs, man. Start right off the rip. Check the airway. Listen to the lung sounds.
Listen to lungs, yeah.
Yep. I agree wholeheartedly with the lung sounds. Like that one's a big one in this patient. So by the time that the fire department EMTs have separated the mother into like the second part of the house, they begin to get details of the story. The mom reported that the daughter has been home from school for the last 4 days not feeling well. She began to have a fever on and off and progressively got weaker and weaker until she became so lethargic this morning that mom was unable to really wake her, and that's why she finally called 911. Mom also reported that she has had a hard time eating and or drinking anything for about 2 days. She also experienced vomiting yesterday about 4 to 5 times throughout the day. Last night, her fever had returned, and mom has been treating it with children's Tylenol and Motrin since yesterday evening. This morning, her fever was 103.5 Fahrenheit. She gave another dose of the Tylenol. That was about an hour prior to calling EMS. So they also find out that she's a generally normal, healthy kid. There's no medical history. There's no allergies. She doesn't take any medications. So these fire department EMTs, they choose to stay with mom, and they don't choose to report any of that back to the douche canoe paramedic. So I'm personally unsure of their motive. I don't know if this move was on purpose, like, hey, fuck you, I'm not giving you any information.
Or
go
are they
drown
afraid
by
to
yourself.
go talk to him?
No,
Are they afraid to go talk to him?
Yeah, I think the tone was set that they're not.
You don't need us
right now. So
I mean, I get that, especially me, like big personality on scene, but that's only going to help the patient.
Right.
So I feel like I would not have withheld that. Would I have gave some sass? Abso-fucking-lutely. But I'm still going to tell them.
Right. And that is the biggest factor in, like you said, it affects only the patient.
Right.
Like,
the medic doesn't care. At the end of the day, like, he's a dick, we know, but when they drop that patient off, it doesn't affect him.
right.
It only affects the patient. So me holding that back is not doing anything to that medic.
Right. And like I said, I don't know if it was intentional or they just said like, hey, I don't want to go back there to get yelled at, or hey, I'll give this to him. I'll give this, to the paramedic in the truck later, blah, blah. Like, they can deal with it until then. I don't know. But it was a move that was made.
I mean, maybe they thought like, oh, there's really nothing that pressing. We'll just, I'll let them know what I know.
Right.
Well, it is relevant.
It is relevant. So the paramedic is still working through their physical exam. They find that her skin is mottled, cool, and fairly diaphoretic. There is equal chest rise. However, they find intercostal retractions, and ventilation still appear to be very shallow. Lung sounds are taken, and they hear crackles in the bases bilaterally. Apices are clear. The medic directs their EMT to gather a baseline set of vitals, which return blood pressure via the manual cuff is 70/50. A respiratory rate is counted as 40 in shallow. Heart rate does not register on the pulse ox probe. And an SpO2 on room air is 92%. She does still have radial pulses present. So first, I want to get each of your guys' opinions on what do you think you're dealing with here?
No report of the child having difficulty moving her head.
So the way it's been explained to me is that she was slumped over, and you could, she'd kind of groggily move her head around, but no meningitis, hey, I can't move my neck or head and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, to me right now, this is still going to be a respiratory cause unknown right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Still going respiratory?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's really all you have to go on right now.
Okay. All right. Even, so are there, Do you guys believe that there is any cause and effect to findings or how this call is going thus far with the interaction between the crews? Do you think that is negatively affecting anything at this point in time?
Well, yeah, you've got...
You have 2 hands working instead of 8.
Yeah. Good way of thinking about it, right? You're losing hands and people. You're losing valuable information by not having mom in the room.
Right. And I mean, the second that you walk in and you see her lethargic, not really responsive, responsive to voice only with delayed cap refill, she's in shock. How long is she going to stay there?
Mm-hmm.
I think now, you just need to move and move quick.
Okay. All right. I like it. So,
does the baby look swollen? Well, not the baby, but does the kid look swollen at all?
There's no
Does that make sense?
Yep. There's no swelling, no edema, nothing like that.
Did you just call her fat? Just kidding.
Well, you could be a cute chubby baby, but I wanted to know about if it looked like abnormal water weight. I don't know.
But it's a good thing to be thinking about. Could this be an allergy? She got stung by a bee outside, or she got bitten by a tick. It's fall. Who knows? I think that's a good thing to think about.
That long.
What was that, Kels?
So an allergy wouldn't last 4 days. I was just trying to think of maybe, your 5-year-old could have a cardiac condition. You don't see it often in kids, but maybe.
Very true. So keeping the possibility, open. So the paramedic tells the EMT to connect her to the cardiac monitor, then stands up and tells their EMT partner they're going to look for, quote, the fucking crazy mom.
Wow.
So, yeah. So I don't know if you guys... This is the paramedic. Wow. What was this?
What time is this? What time of the day is this?
Morning.
Yeah, because
so there's no reason. So this isn't no 3 o'clock in the morning. Just woke you up and you got every reason to be freaking pissed off at the world.
It doesn't even matter. Could you imagine even being pissed off at the world at 3 a.m. walking in and seeing a sick kid and be like, "Fuck you for getting me out of bed"?
Seriously, right?
What?
Right.
I'm literally just trying to find anything I can to give this person the benefit of the doubt.
No, he's a shitball. There is no benefit
right,
of the doubt.
You know what I mean? It's like okay, you woke up on the wrong side of the bed. You're having a bad day. Life sucks. Whatever. But there's
probably because he created it.
I can't imagine. I cannot imagine ever talking like that.
He didn't even see the mom.
That's it. Could you imagine, sitting there and being like, yeah, I'm going to go fucking, find that fucking nut job of a mom.
No, it's
I couldn't even imagine listening to that on scene. Being the EMT or even a second paramedic or whatever, I'd be like, dude, woman, whatever, doesn't matter. Get the fuck out. Bye. We don't need you.
Seriously.
I'll take over. Clearly you're not in the right headspace to be here. Right. So, of course, because these are the way the calls happen to be able to review on this awesome show of ours is they get up, they say this about the fucking crazy mom, not realizing that while they were working on this child, the husband came home from work. And is now standing in the hallway.
So now there's a crazy husband.
So now there's a crazy husband who overhears this stupid jackass paramedic go, "Hey, fucking crazy mom," right? How do you
deserves that?
How do you feel like that would go?
He deserves that.
I feel bad for his partner.
Seriously, right? Absolutely. So, of course, because there's no other way of getting around the confrontation. The husband enters the room and literally starts just screaming, pointing his finger at this fucking idiot paramedic.
Good for him.
Right?
Yeah.
He
deserves that.
Right. He's cursing at the paramedic. He's telling him to get the fuck out of the house.
Damn straight.
Literally, the EMT just stands up and is like, "We need to separate the two of you." But now the husband starts screaming at both of them because now the EMT is trying to break them up.
They both wear the same uniform. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So, hearing all this from the other side of the house, the fire department EMTs and the mom come back into the playroom. And they attempt to settle the whole situation down. Mom is able to pull the husband away from the room, and they both go to the opposite side of the house. Once they leave, the paramedic's partner calls on their radio and does exactly what Gerard said to do. Calls up their soup and is like, "Yo, you need to come down here." Yeah. So while all this is going on, The cardiac monitor's been sitting
Vacant.
Yeah, what's going on with the kid?
Just doing
Did we ever
its
get a
cardiac
pulse ox
thing.
or anything?
So we got a pulse ox. It was 92 on Romero.
Okay.
How you can still feel radial pulses, but the pulse ox couldn't pick up an actual heart rate. So they finally look down at the cardiac monitor, and they see a narrow complex tachycardia at a rate of 215. But again, no one's noticed this because they're all
Time out.
fighting.
215 or 250?
215.
215.
Okay.
And
That's still just as bad, but
I would agree. So now that there's 4 EMS providers in the room again with no parents, the paramedic, they finally look over and they look at the kid, they look at the monitor, and then they look at their partner and they're like, this fucking kid's gonna die.
Yeah.
Like,
But please keep fighting with the dad.
Yeah, sure.
exactly, right? So
Don't let me interrupt.
yeah, don't let me, my sickness interrupt your bad fucking day, right? So, getting away from patient care for a second, I think we can all establish that this paramedic has zero professionalism at this point in time. I think we can all agree with that.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So,
yeah, definitely.
what do you guys think about like leadership skills in this? Like, do you feel like this paramedic has any, or have they set the table to be like, this is the way the call is going to go and it's just going to go down the shit?
Yeah.
Like,
I
think they've made it hard to do actual patient care now. Like, I think the parents are going to be hard pressed to actually trust this paramedic.
I wouldn't.
At this point, like, until the soup comes down, he's your highest level of care. Like, not saying that your 3 EMTs can't do anything, but to a certain extent, you're going to need that paramedic to do some patient care.
But
And I think
maybe
at this point, he just takes that kid and said, well, guess not today.
maybe you take, that one EMT that took her to the side and like had that conversation with her. Maybe they've developed a rapport enough to be like, listen, she's really sick. This is what we want to do. This is, he's the one that's going to do it. I'll be right here. We'll walk you through it. Like maybe you have to rebuild it. You have to move.
I'm sorry he's a douche, but he's the only one that's going to help right now.
And like, this is what we're going to do. All of us agree on this.
right. And I'm almost wondering if, like you said, you kind of have to rebuild that rapport, but maybe even though, technically your provider in charge, your lead provider is the paramedic, maybe there needs to be a switch.
Yeah.
And it go to that fire department
Whoever
EMT
has the
or,
good rapport.
right.
And like, yes, the medic is still going to do the skills, but that doesn't mean that they have to be in charge.
Right. And that pivot might need to happen.
Well, I mean, at this point with the supervisor on the way, I would just,
How long are you going to wait for them to get there though?
well, if I was an EMT at that time, I would have said, you need to go sit in the fucking truck. Just get out of here.
Yep.
You know.
Because then at least,
I mean, she's unresponsive, almost unresponsive with a heart rate of 215. I don't know if I really want the person that's able to fix that to go sit in the front of the ambulance.
But
Right now, that person's more of a hindrance to anything being done.
But that's
because,
what
it's
like
just,
as an EMT, develop a rapport and try and fix it. If I can't fix it, then there's no other option.
Right.
They need to excuse themselves.
But at the same point, can you trust that paramedic is able to fix it in the headspace that they are?
If I know better.
Like, fuck you, fuck this kid. I'm
I know
fucking
better.
done here. Like,
Am I an EMT that doesn't know what the next step is? Am I an EMT that, oh, well, how are we going to do that? I don't know.
right.
Or am I
But
an
I mean,
EMT
how
that knows
many-
exactly the steps that are going to get taken?
Right. But how many EMTs do you know out there that do know the exact steps that this paramedic should be taking? Meds, dosages, to be able to be like watching them. Most,
Yeah, I mean, that's
most
true.
wouldn't,
That's true.
Yeah.
I'm just putting myself on the scene like, this motherfucker's
Okay,
going to get
so
a throat punch.
Putting
And I'm just
you
thinking
on the
that
scene
the
is
time
very
it's gonna
different
take
because he
the
would get a
soup to
throat
get there.
punch.
Well, I was just thinking as in the time it's going to take for the supervisor to get there, between me and the other 2 EMTs, we could use the time to package the kid, get him ready to go, and all that stuff, and hopefully by the time.
Manage until somebody else
I
gets
agree.
there.
I think
I
we
agree
need
with
to
that.
start
Yeah.
moving.
I mean, is your supervisor a medic?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would assume that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I assume.
Well,
How far away
yeah,
is
that,
the
yeah,
supervisor?
you're right.
Is it one of those things that you can just, we'll start putting the car seat on and get them going, and we can pick up the soup along the way and just
Right.
take
I mean,
the medic out of the
you
call,
need to extricate
or-
this patient out of the house. So if that's what you can get done before they actually get treatment, then
Right,
get
we're
that
not just
done.
gonna sit there, yeah.
Right.
but I
Don't
mean,
just sit there on scene.
And twiddle your thumbs.
Right.
Right. You would still have to be doing something.
Right.
I agree. So the fire department and EMTs move outside to begin getting equipment ready for extrication. And, more or less, they're going to move the stretcher towards the door because they were thinking, let's just carry this kid out. The paramedic searches for an IV site, and because now there's no oversight, the parents are in the other room. They can more or less do what they want, and they find an IV site in the left AC, and of course, because they're jacked up on whatever,
They blow it.
they blow it. Now, kids inevitably are tough sticks anyway.
Yeah.
But now you have an amped up paramedic. You're going to miss. Like the level of, hey, we're going to make this 100% one-time IV attempt is probably slim.
Gone.
So they search on the other arm and find another AC vein on the right side, which they are able to cannulate with a 22. I'll ding myself on that one. A 22 gauge catheter. And the EMT keeps telling their paramedic to chill, right? Just chill the fuck
I'm
out.
out. Kelsey has a question.
Okay.
That's not how you're supposed to ask it.
I have a question. So I have a question. As you know, going through medical school, how do you choose for peds, IV sizes? Is there a rule of thumb?
Feel it.
Or
Whatever fits.
feel it?
Feel it. It's the same you choose as an adult. Can I get an 18 or a 20 in it? Can I get a 20 in this 20 instead of a 22?
Mm-hmm.
Feel it.
Most people for peds, I feel.
Where do you start?
AC is the
Yeah. It depends on the size of the kid.
At
Are
5,
we talking?
yeah.
Are we talking a 10-month-old? Are we talking a 5-week-old? Or are we
Right.
talking a 5-year-old?
You go from the scalp to the back of the wrist and then kind of move up. But at 5, I bet they have pretty developed ACs
Yeah.
Yeah.
that you
I
probably could have got a 20 in.
I mean, let's put it this way. You look at, I know no one knows what my kids look like, but they're, fairly tiny, a 7 and a 5-year-old, and I could put a 14 easily
Yeah.
in both of their EJs. They're gargantuan, but yet their ACs are still very prominent. You could probably fit a 20 in there easily, and they're not, they're normal, healthy kids, just like this one, typically. So really it goes off of what fits. It doesn't have to be the old adage of, every kid gets a 22 and a 24 because they're smaller. And no, because those actually will hinder your success.
Right.
Because they bend.
Right.
And
what I usually do, yeah. I mean, what I
Yeah,
usually
not
do
for
is,
nothing.
we got a delay or something. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, I was saying what I usually do is for pediatric that's not, an infant, I'll usually pull a 20 and
Same.
look for a site.
Same.
And if something looks good, I'll go for it. If I don't see anything that I'm confident I can put a 20 in, then I'll drop to a 22. But usually 20 for a pediatric is
Same.
Is
it's
standard.
a good shot. Yeah.
And not for nothing, but do you know how frustrated you're going to be if you're trying to push a adenosine or whatever med through a 24, something that has to go quick?
Yeah.
You're going to be so annoyed.
By the time,
Set
by the
yourself
time you
up for
get
success.
through,
Useless.
it's
Yeah.
already burnt and useless.
Exactly. So why would I?
Yeah.
I'm
So
with Gerard.
yeah, I agree 100%. So this EMT continuously tells their partner to just chill, right? During both attempts, they noticed that the medic's hands were shaking. They're mumbling under their breath, fuck this, fuck that, all about the IV. They've already set themselves up for failure. Yep, I'm going to miss this. This kid's going to die, whatever. I'm done. I feel like this paramedic has already sold this call down the river. That's kind of where the camp that I'm in. So the IV is established, and the medic hangs a 1,000 ml bag of normal saline, opens it up halfway. Then the paramedic steps out of the home to make a phone call to med control. While on med control, he's given orders for adenosine, 0.1 milligrams per kilo. No other orders are given. And I'm assuming that they're going down the SVT route here.
Yeah.
With the heart rate of 215, the altered mental status, and the whole, presentation history. So meanwhile, while the paramedics outside, the remaining EMTs are able to carry her outside, secure her on the awaiting stretcher, and the paramedic soup arrives on the scene.
Thank God.
Well, now let's back up for a second. I understand that we've got an SVT and all that, but nobody had addressed the fact that we have crackles in the lungs, and I mean this kid is legit has been sick for a few days.
Mm-hmm.
But it's. I don't disagree with the adenosine though, because it's not really going to hurt them.
Right. No, I was just saying that let's also take that step back and remember there's a whole big picture, other things going on here too. It's not just the SVT. This kid is legit sick,
but
yes.
Something else.
But say it's like an RSV, fever on and off, respiratory distress. Say it's RSV. Now they're in SVT. You still have to stop the SVT.
Right.
You're giving fluids. There's nothing that you're really going to... Well, there is, but...
Right.
I don't disagree with starting with adenosine.
I mean, in this case, typically for pediatrics, SVTs are caused by significant dehydration.
Yeah.
Right?
Or WPW.
Right. But again...
You're not going to know.
You're not going to know...
Until you slow it down.
Right. So... I don't disagree with the adenosine and the fluid at all, being that, no one, even a 5-year-old, cannot sustain 215 for very long.
Exactly.
Right? Yes.
And then you can slow it down to know what you have.
Right. There might be, I'm not discounting what you're saying, Gerard. I'm just on the camp of, yes, there's something that caused this this SVT. It wasn't like, oh, hey, this kid's had SVT for the last 4 days.
Right.
Something caused them to do it.
Right, that's what I'm saying. The
SVT
isn't the root of this. The SVT is a result of
I agree.
I agree, yes.
I still think respiratory. I still have RSV in the back of my mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the paramedic supervisor arrives on the scene. They make their way up to the EMT who initially called for them. This is the paramedic's partner. And they say, hey, come over here. We're going to have a chat for 2 seconds. The EMT tells their soup that their paramedic partner is literally out of control, totally out of line, and caused this, chaotic, this chaotic scene inside the house between the parents. So then the soup goes, okay, carry on, get inside, start taking care of the kid. I'm going to go talk to your partner. Walks over, talks to the partner, and asks, again, what the fuck happened, right? And medic, in my opinion, tries to
lessen the situation.
Knows that they fucked up.
Yep.
And tries to cover the tracks, right? Because the story I got was that this medic tells the soup that the mom was bonkers.
No.
And causing a hostile scene. I love that word, like hostile. She was being hostile.
It's her fucking kid,
right? And he told the fire department to remove her, and then she must have gotten the dad worked up because that's when he started yelling at him.
That's an outright lie.
Outright fucking lie.
Yeah, but in his mind, it's one word versus
truth.
one word.
Right.
And what are you going to do? Fight about it now on scene while this kid's crumping?
Right. And that's it. What is the overall, soup going to do in this whole situation, right? There's definitely a situation that needs to be solved.
I feel like my first thing as
the paramedic at this point.
Well, and my first thing out of my mouth, if my supervisor arrives, is like, this child is sick, get the fuck in the ambulance, and we will work out why you're here after. Mm-hmm. Like, at this point, we just need to...
We need to focus on the kid, not the scene.
It's not like this kid is just a bullshit, minor asthma attack. Like, she is sick.
Right.
I don't need 2 paramedics outside of the ambulance talking about who said what and what happened for... I don't care.
Yeah. And 100%, like... How is it going to go over playing devil's advocate? The soup comes over and goes, hey, I don't care what the fuck happened right now. This is now my call.
Right.
Is that douche canoe paramedic going to sit there and be like, oh, okay. Like, or is there going to be
What are they going to do?
I was going to say douche canoe paramedic doesn't have any say in that.
Yeah, it's your supervisor. They're saying, like, take this, sit in the front of the ambulance, whatever the fuck you got to do. I'm taking this call. We'll talk after.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not disagreeing. I think that is the perfect way of doing things in this scenario. So the regular paramedic goes into the ambulance. The douche canoe paramedic goes into the ambulance and starts doing medic shit, right?
Look at him go.
Yeah. At this point, the soup goes inside and finds mom, who's literally leaving the house to go into the truck, and just goes, listen, what the fuck happened? Give me a 15-second rundown of it. So the girl's inside the ambulance, and the douche canoe paramedic estimates that her weight is around 45 pounds, draws up 2 milligrams of adenosine, and with the help of their EMTs, administers the adenosine rapid push and then a rapid fluid bolus after the push.
How rapid? You have a 22.
Yeah.
I'm sure they squeeze the bag really hard.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right? There was nothing that was said to me that they drew up, 50 or 60 mLs and pushed it afterwards. There was nothing like that. It was, I'm going to squeeze the bag really hard. So the rhythm slows and then works its way back up to 220. Still narrow complex, still an SVT. The medic again becomes hostile, grumbling under his breath, cursing, blah, blah, blah. So where's your guys' heads at with this call? We've kind of, covered the douche canoe paramedic, what should have happened to them. But now that, the adenosine doesn't work, where are you guys moving towards with the SVT? Or just treatment in general?
Well, I mean, I'm going to state the obvious that you don't have enough pipe for the adenosine to work properly.
Yeah.
So if he's already blown the one line on the other side, and this one is obviously ineffective, you know where I'm going. I'm probably gonna break out the drill.
Okay.
I think an IO is warranted here because this is now a life critical type issue.
Right, because the mentation's not getting any better.
How responsive is the kid right now?
Yeah.
So as of right now, they're teetering between verbal commands and painful stimuli. Let's just put it, they are on that fence line between the transition of both. They're still very lethargic. Their eyes are closed. They're not moving around.
With an IO, I'm going to be able to.
She's just sitting there, laying there, okay, do what you want. I don't care. Which is
not
normal for any
not
kid.
Good for a kid.
Yeah, with an IO, I'm going to be able to, push the adenosine with the rapid bolus. I'm going to be able to dump fluid if I have to. It's going to afford me all, everything that I need to try and make this kid better. That 22 is not going to do it.
Okay, so
I have a question.
Yes.
How quickly is the adenosine even going to get to the heart, though? Because doesn't it have to break down in the bone matrices?
Ooh, I'm going to let Gerard take that since he brought it up.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm kind of at a no-win right now, so.
I mean, it does work,
what option
though.
It
will
should
work. I don't know why, but it does.
You still have all of the, inside the bone, you still have all of those capillary beds to go to, right? You still have all that membrane that it can dissolve into. The biggest thing is that remember we've talked about this, Kelsey. Adenosine is just synthesized ATP that the body would use anyway, right? It's our fuel source. Just instead of 38 ATP from the Krebs cycle, we're giving 6 milligrams or 5 milligrams or 2 milligrams or whatever it might be, and now we're giving 50 million ATP at that point in time. Why we give it so close to the heart is because we need it to get there, right?
Faster,
right? So it actually.
But that's what I'm saying.
But it's still
be in an IO below the knee. How quickly is it going to get there with the half-life?
It's still going to get there. Obviously, if I had a 20 in the AC, that would be my preferred method.
Right.
But I don't.
So I'm going to say it still is going to get there. The effects, though, however, are probably not going to be as strong as if you had a 20 in the AC and you're giving it there. Or even, why don't we do a humeral head IO? Because that is central line access, almost. I mean, it's not central line access, but it's close damn enough to where you're giving it right to the heart at that point in time. Right? Because that's going to hit that subclavian and right into the heart. Right?
Yeah.
Is there any consideration for cardioversion at this point, guys?
I was just going to say that.
So that's what I was thinking about, because if your IV didn't have that much of an effect, and let's say for some strange reason, or you just are too scared to drill the kid in the shoulder, or whatever your reason may be, and you go for, right near the knee, if it's going to have such a limited effect, just like your 22 in the AC did, is it even worth wasting your time?
Well, like I said, I personally, I would have gone for the humeral head,
but even if
it's still worth it, because now you're going to have large bore access to this kid. You're going to be able to do other things down the road if you have to, and you don't have to do it later. So, I mean, either way, I would do it.
Okay.
I'm not disagreeing.
I don't disagree with that either.
I think it's warranted, especially in this case. I don't know if I would push. I don't think I would take the time to push another round of adenosine. It's worked. If I double the dose, based on the metrics of the protocol, because the next, they already tried 0.1. Now they're going to try 0.2.
Right.
It's not gonna change anything, I don't think. I'm moving towards cardioversion. No one wants to zap a tiny kid, but we also don't want them to have a heart rate of 220.
I mean, but how effective is that going to be? You zap a kid and they convert to a sinus tach. How long is that sinus tach going to last? Because whatever put them into SVT the first time is still going on. How much fluids do they have?
That was my point before, was this SVT is not the cause. This is the result of. Mm-hmm. So even if we convert this kid into a
fluids
rhythm,
more, give Tylenol or something.
To go.
And then if I need to, I'll cardiovert. But cardioverting them now, I mean, I don't know how much fluids have they gotten.
That's exactly where I was going.
How much fluid can you
I was about to ask, how much fluid have we given so far? Because you told me he opened it up halfway. Well, halfway into 22, he didn't bolus shit.
Well, and that's so. He didn't even, and again, I don't know whether this is a he or she. We're just using that. But this paramedic, there's nothing that tells me how much was given at this point in time. So,
But honestly, how much can you give without making the fluid in their lungs worse?
So typically, your pediatric bolus dose for this case should be 20 mLs per kilo. Right? They estimated weight, just saying 45 pounds. We don't know if that's under, over. We don't know. We don't even have a kilo at this point in time. Emily, you're on your phone. What's 45 pounds into kilos? Legit, not just.
Oh, I was like, do you want me to do my cheat?
No, not do your cheat.
20.45.
20.45.
Yeah. So, now you're looking at, giving like a 400 bolus at this, like a 400 ml bolus. And typically for peds, you're going to do that, over like a 3 or 4 minute period. Opening it up halfway. And especially, I was going to save it to the end. I don't like the fact that they put this kid on
a liter bag.
Yeah,
I don't either.
Yeah.
I was going to say that.
If you have 500 bags, put them on that. Put them on 100 bag. I know in New York, they got rid of the burette. I love those things, but they got rid of them. Whatever. It is what it is. I'm not salty about it.
All right, you salty vet.
But, even doing dosing through, like a 60 ml syringe.
Right.
And drawing up 60 mLs, giving 60 mLs, drawing up another 60, pushing another 60 over periods of time would be a better way of bolusing than just going, let me hang this 1,000 bag and opening it up halfway. Because now, who the fuck knows? With a 22, who knows how much they've gotten? I don't know how much they've gotten, right?
Yep.
So, getting back, the soup at this point, has entered the ambulance, and the medic is the primary medic is getting ready to cardiovert the girl, and the soup politely says, "Stop what you're doing, exit the ambulance, get into my vehicle, drive back to the building, clock out, and wait for me to be there." Cool.
That's some tea.
And I'm like,
Good for them.
I feel like that's appropriate
Yeah.
with all of this, bullshit, right?
Absolutely.
The soup asked the EMT if their paramedic had any orders other than adenosine, and the EMT was unsure. Didn't have that.
They weren't on the phone call.
Didn't have that phone call, right? So the soup then calls med control while telling the fire department EMTs to start transport to the cardiac center because they still have 25-minute drive to get this kid to a cardiac center.
Right.
Now, just so we're kind of clear on where all of the moving parts are, there's one fire department EMT driving the fire department ambulance. Inside the back of there's the other fire department EMT and
The soup.
the soup. The other paid EMT, the douche canoe's partner, is driving their rig behind them.
Right.
Okay, to the hospital.
Okay.
And the douche canoe medic has left the scene because he's
He's
a
a
douche
douche.
canoe.
Elvis has left the building. Yeah.
Elvis has left the building. So the soup gets orders for cardioversion at 0.5 joules per kilo. After the phone conversation, they asked the mother how much the child weighs because, again, the mother is right there in the,
And
the
they
truck
guessed
with them.
for adenosine.
And they guessed for adenosine, and the mom goes, well, before she got sick, she was 55 pounds, okay? So, first off, I want to just say 55 pounds is how many kilos?
25.
So they were off by 5 kilos-ish,
Yeah.
with the, 5 kilos under where they were.
25 kilos.
So should they, now you look at the adenosine dose should have been higher.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Right?
Yes.
So this is also why we don't estimate weights. Like,
especially for pediatrics, everything's based on a weight.
everything is based off of weight. So
Especially with mom right there. Like, mom, please go to the doctor so frequently that they should know roughly their weight within like 1 or 2 pounds.
well, and that's it, like it's a simple, hey mom, how much does the kid weigh? Be very specific. Boom, done. 55 pounds. Oh, awesome. I'm running with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's converted to around 25 kilos. And it is determined that she needs to be cardioverted with 12 joules of energy. Mom has explained the procedure, why they need to do it. Fluid on the 1,000 bag is stopped. The cardiac pads are put on her. The medic syncs the monitor for cardioversion, sets the energy to 10 joules as there's no option on their monitor for 12. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
They shock her. The rate does break to a sinus tach in the 120s. This paramedic then begins the fluid bolus, and they calculate it and do it the proper way of 20 mLs per kilo, right? Vital signs are finally retaken because we've done all of this with one set of vital signs, right? Vital signs are finally retaken. Heart rate is sinus tach on the monitor at a 125. Blood pressure via the auto cuff is 97/71. Ventilations are 28, still somewhat shallow, but retractions have improved. SpO2 is 95% on room air, and this is where they do their BG. They do a BG, and it comes back as 86 milligrams per deciliter.
Bless.
What do you mean less?
I said bless.
Oh, bless. I thought you said less. So I was like, what?
I didn't make it.
So
I was talking and my mute was on, so you guys didn't hear me.
I didn't hear you at all, but I was waiting for you to have a whole conversation with yourself on mute.
No, you guys are pretty quick. Because I asked a question, nobody answered me. Everybody re-listened to lung sounds.
They did not re-listen to lung sounds as far as it was reported to me.
Okay.
So they arrive at the hospital, and ultimately the child will, get full recovery, antibiotics, all sorts of things.
What was it?
I don't know.
Turek.
What?
Fucking
Leave me
UTI.
alone.
I hate when that
It was
happens.
It was not a UTI.
It could have been.
I mean, it could have been, but
Cue the what sound effect.
Fuck.
sorry. So people don't do follow-ups. I cannot help if they don't do follow-ups. All right?
If you sent this to us, can you please just tell us what was wrong? God.
Right?
Track down the family if you need be.
Christ. It's not on me if I don't have the information.
Send the soup back to the house and politely ask.
Right.
Did the douche canoe lose his job?
That I don't know.
Oh my God.
What?
I can't ask that.
Why?
That is not a legal question that I can ask.
I'm asking.
Okay, well, you can ask.
Somebody send it in.
If anybody wants
Somebody
to,
send
you
it
know,
in.
slide into the DMs of Emily, there you go.
Please.
So, so overall, how did this call go?
Considering everything
Worse
they
than
had
it
going
could've.
on, it could have gone worse.
It way could have gone worse.
Like, I think the treatment was on point, even if he is a douche canoe. I think it could have been done quicker. I think that it could have been more effectively, but the treatment was there.
Okay. So is it?
I think there could have been a way worse outcome, especially for how long the kid is.
I mean, kudos to the
compensating for.
EMT. Yes. And kudos to the EMT for calling the soup to kind of stop it in its tracks. Because I dread if that paramedic had to ride that whole thing in.
Well, and two, you know, think about the thing that crosses my mind is I am not confident in that paramedic to make any good decisions.
Exactly.
So
Right.
like, they've already underdosed the adenosine. Would they then have underdosed the Joules?
Probably.
But then also, would they have even remembered to sync the cardio version? And now
Right.
they defibrillate, and now the kid's in cardiac arrest.
Right.
Right? All because their mind is
Somewhere else. Yeah.
because they're angry or frustrated or whatever. You know, like that's where I go.
Yeah.
So I think.
I feel like that,
Go ahead, Kelsey.
especially the EMT, like he kind of basically called the boss and, told on his partner. I feel like that was just a really big step that I don't know how many people would actually be able to
Yeah.
do that.
It's ballsy.
Like,
But good for
take
you.
a step back and be like, this patient needs more than what my medic can handle, and
Exactly.
my medic being here is going to make it worse.
Yeah.
So, like, kudos to them for being able to take that step and be like, yep, the next time I get to the shift is going to suck, but it's in this kid's best interest.
Yeah. You know, and this is kind of, I did this call specifically because it had a lot of leadership and professionalism impact on it. And, it reminds me how really good leadership can take calls in a very positive direction. But when you have providers that are not professional and are not good leaders, and, it kind of steers the ship in the wrong direction. And, I want to ask you guys, like, in your opinion, and we're going to do a whole lot of talking about professionalism and leadership this month. But what do you guys want to see in a good provider that's also a good leader?
I preach this until I'm blue in the face with all the people that train with me. And for me to be a good provider and then to lead, because ultimately, like when you're leading, all you want to do is like, oh, you're my friend. Like, I want to show you how to do it to make this easier for you. Patient advocacy.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you can be the worst EMT in the world. If you advocate for your patient, you will not be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of why we all do everything that we do, right?
It's
Is to
always about patient
betterment the
advocacy.
patient.
And good
Right.
for this EMT to advocate for the patient for better care, even though he's not the leader on scene. Good for you.
Right.
You recognize an issue and you fixed it.
Right. And like Kelsey said, being bold enough to be like,
Yeah.
This needs to change now. And you
Yeah.
know what? I'm going to step in a heap ton of shit.
Right. Who
But
knows what
I'm
tomorrow
going
will
to
show.
take this for the team because
Yeah.
this patient requires it.
Exactly.
So I think that there needs to be a huge kudos to that EMT for
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Anything else from you two guys?
No.
No,
Not
I
really.
feel like I covered everything I wanted to say.
I think we pretty much covered everything we needed to cover. We don't have any outcomes, so there's not really
So there's
talking
that.
about. There's nothing really to talk
Sorry.
about there.
God.
You know, we could always fill the rest of the
I
time in
wanted
with
to know, like, the
discussion
dad
on
went to a
UTIs.
station and
So I am going to fill the last couple minutes with a couple points, right? So we kind of alluded to a lot of different problems and, complexities within the pediatric call. And recently I listened to a phenomenal episode of Medic Mindset. I know I'm plugging another podcast here, but it was phenomenal.
God forbid.
And I know, God forbid. You disseminate really good EMS information, right? Not something that I do anytime.
Right.
But it was absolutely fabulous. Ginger talked to a pediatric attending from San Diego. And I'm going to link that episode in the show notes and the description of this episode so you guys can go listen to it.
Guests.
She does. She really does. And they talked about all of these like abnormalities with kids, right? And the one that really stuck with me is the levels of retractions was one, and then two was this doctor called kids that they had popsicle bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I have never heard anyone be like, kids are popsicles. And what she meant by it is that, their head and their neck and their shoulders are really big. And that's like the big part of the popsicle. But then the rest of their body is like the stick.
Tapers down.
Right? And it tapers down into this small, petite little thing. And because we always say, like, yes, kids have really big heads. Hold on. I just knocked my, okay.
did you just die, or was it my phone?
No. Are you still there?
He had to put Kelly back in her place.
Oh, gotcha.
She was getting out of line.
Yeah,
Do better, Kelly. Do better.
I wonder what Kelly never said anything about this call. Like,
She knew.
I wonder
from
what
the
she
get-go.
thought. Yeah. Damn Kelly. So this popsicle body, because of it, don't ever lay your kids down, right? Because one of the things that this MD said was that as soon as you lay the kids down, their head comes forward, that big popsicle comes forward, and there's a natural partial obstruction to the trachea.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right? So you're automatically hurting your patient's oxygenation and ventilation by just positioning. God,
Dang.
I am terrible today. Awful today. By positioning them incorrectly, you're causing a respiratory issue, right? Probably not going to be helpful with this kid, right, who has a respiratory complaint. The next thing that I really took away from it was the levels of retractions, which I thought was like phenomenal, because you always see retractions in kids, but is a sternal worse than a clavicular? Is it worse than an intercostal? Like, where are they? So from mild to severe, intercostal retractions are your mild retractions. They're working a little bit, but they might still be bad, but it's not super terrible yet. Then you move up to sternal and subclavicular retractions. So you're moving upwards towards the head. When you see both of those, they're getting a little bit more severe. Then there's something that I didn't even know it had a name. I always just called it a neck or throat retraction, but it's actually called a tracheal tug.
Yes.
And I didn't know that was like a word. I just assumed that's what I heard, prior was this like neck retraction. So that's what I kept.
You're like breathing so hard the trachea is getting pulled down with it, right?
Correct.
And you get the little gap in the throat.
divot.
Yeah.
If you look for your, substernal notch, you can actually see all of the trachea just dive into the back of the throat because they're sucking so hard.
Yeah.
And then it's not really a retraction, but she says the final, bad juju is the jello neck head bob. So when they finally go through all of their retractions and now you start seeing that jello neck head bobbing, that's where they're like, yep, this is imminent respiratory arrest. They're really bad. You need to fix them. I thought that was phenomenal information.
You see a kid like he's had like Weekend at Bernie's, you're in a bad spot.
Yes, absolutely. The other big thing that I wanted to touch base on is using the resources you have on scene, and that is mom and dad, right? They know the story. Don't just ignore them. Don't be like, oh yeah, fuck you, you're crazy. Calm them down and get that information.
As crazy as they are, they still have relevant information that you need.
And as I said, I think anyone else would have handled it normally. The fact
I agree.
The X factor in this was the paramedic just completely being off his fucking trolley.
Yes.
I still don't understand where that all came from, but that was the biggest detriment to this. But yeah, of course, use your parents for your history and your PHI and everything else. I mean, they've got all the information you need right there.
Yeah.
Even if they're a little excited, shall we say, you talk to them. You be calm. That was the other thing. I guess that was the one thing I was going to add about a good leader or a good leadership quality for somebody managing a scene or whatever it would be. Presence of calm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's contagious.
Yeah, if you can be that person that the whole world is falling around everybody, and the sky is falling, and the earth is on fire, and you come in, you're like, hey, how's it going? Nothing to see here. Move along.
Right.
It's all good.
Your kid's really sick, but we're gonna take care of it.
Right.
No big deal. Professionals here.
Yeah, it really is I think it's something that goes a lot further than anything else, and it's not something you can teach.
Yeah.
It's either it can be learned, but it's definitely a quality that I think a lot of people really, really, really need to have before they step into those positions.
Yeah. I 100% agree. Absolutely. Because like you said, it's contagious, right?
Yeah.
One person walks in and is the calm in the storm. The 5 other people that might be chickens might be like, oh, okay, well, he's calm.
Yeah, they're fine.
Right.
They're fine.
I'm not allowed to freak out until they freak out, so I'm good.
Right. There was always this, Gerard, you kind of, you will get this joke, but Bill Engvall has a skit where he's flying and he's like, I'm a really good flyer until the flight attendant freaks out.
Right.
And then it's like, then I'm allowed to be fucking crazy.
Right.
And that's kind of, if you see that one calm person, you can be like, I don't have to freak out until they freak out. And if they never freak out,
you're good.
You're good.
You're fine.
You're good through the whole thing. We talked about weight, right? Weight is so critical in peds. It is, I mean, if there's any other information that is more critical than, hey, like HPI type history, what's been going on, get that weight.
Even if not. If you walked into this kid and you had no HPI and you got vitals and see a heart rate of 215, you still need the weight.
Right. Yeah.
That is like the one thing I will ask before anything else. How much does this person weigh?
Yeah.
This pediatric.
Because again, everything that you do in peds is weight based.
Yeah.
Amount of, fluid that you give, meds that you give, energy that you give.
Yeah.
Everything that you do, even in a cardiac arrest situation, the epi is based off of weight.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's not like, oh yeah, I'm going to slam in a milligram of epi. No, like that kid will have a pulse. The rock next to him will have a pulse too.
Right.
But everything revolves around an accurate weight. The days of, being like, oh yeah, they're like 50 pounds. I don't do that. Ask the mom and dad, ask the caregiver, ask whoever, how much does this kid weigh? You know what I've done? If I know that I'm just going to be given like a fluid bolus or something like that, I will, and the kid's like normal, they're just, they're slightly dehydrated, their, heart rate's up a little bit. Ask the kid how much they weigh, or play a fun game with them and have them jump on the scale and show you, right? Play with them. Like you don't have to just guess.
Right.
Like there's other ways to take 2 minutes and look outside the box for other solutions, right? So one of the things that you guys kind of alluded to, Kelsey, you said, hey, I wanted to do re-up lung sounds. Gerard, you were saying, hey, I'm not liking these lung sounds. They're wet. They're this.
Yeah.
Think about, and I'm sure a lot of people are like, well, they never address the lung sounds. So crackles mean fluid, right? We all know that. However, we don't know how long this kid was in SVT, right? This kid could have been in SVT for 10 hours. We don't know, right? The one thing that research has showed is in kids, prolonged SVT can cause left-sided heart failure. So left-sided heart failure, we know, backs up into the lungs, giving this kid rails. So I'm sure that this kid, at least in my opinion, probably had prolonged period of SVT causing some form of heart failure, which then caused the crackles in the lungs. You know, so I think that is just another thing to note, because again, we don't see these patients all that often. Thank God. And, you know, and again, they're always more severe than we want them to be. You know, there's no in-between semi-sick kid. It's like this kid's like, or this kid is about to die.
Right.
Like, you never see a kid in the middle. So if there's nothing else, guys.
I feel like that's especially important to know, because I feel like most people, you know, they hear dispatch for a 5-year-old respiratory call. Now they're hearing respiratory sounds, and they might not ever even put 2 and 2 together, that this could be a cardiac issue that's causing this, or a respiratory issue that caused a cardiac issue. Because, you know, people under 50 don't ever have heart issues.
Yeah.
You know,
But it's
and
why
that's what a lot of people think.
It's really important to do a good assessment.
Yeah. And not just be like, oh, yep, whatever. We found that, but I'm not actually going to think about it. Like, take the whole picture. You
Don't
know,
get stuck
like
on one finding.
Right. Exactly. Especially with kids, because they present differently.
Yeah.
You know, ask this kid, does their tummy, you know, have, you know, does their tummy hurt? Does anything hurt? You know, figure out on their level what you can ask and how they need to interpret it to understand what the heck you're talking about.
Right.
You know, I will say that going from a provider that didn't have kids when I first started to now having 2, I will definitely say that providers that have kids understand and can treat pediatrics better.
100%.
100%. Like, it is night and day. I can communicate with any kid, no matter what. 7 years ago, before my kids, no way.
I 100% agree with that.
No way. You know? And I'm not saying, like, go out and steal a kid so you can... But interact with them. Don't be scared of them.
Yeah.
You know, they have likes and dislikes.
Right.
If you say to my kids, what do you like? They'll tell you for an hour. So ask them. Like, they're just people.
Right.
They think like we do. They talk like we
and
do. Like,
most of them want to talk.
Damn Skippy they do. I can't shut mine up. But if that's all, guys, we will see you hopefully with a very special guest all about leadership for the November 15th episode. So we're still working out the final details on getting this gentleman in here. But I'm hopeful that it will be a very exciting conversation. He runs a EMS Leadership Academy. And in our local area, actually, but it's a national, you know, it has national reach. And the whole goal of Robbie's, you know, mission, I guess, is to spread the benefits of really good EMS leadership. Here's how to obtain it. Here's how to teach it. Here's how to, you know, evolve your agency to get it. So I thought, you know, with this call and with that conversation, this was going to be a really good month for leadership qualities. So till next time, guys, stay safe.
Donuts.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you'd like more information on the podcast or to send us a call to review, visit medicmaterials.com/podcast. To learn more information, like us on Facebook at Medic Materials EDU, or watch our weekly instructional videos on the Medic Materials YouTube channel.